The morning alarm blared like it always did, shrill, insistent, almost cruel in how it dragged her from the shallowest edge of sleep. Clara groaned, fumbling on the nightstand for her phone. She'd stayed up far too late again, trying to finish an order of handmade jewelry pieces that she sold through a small online marketplace. It wasn't much, just a side hustle, but lately it was the one thing giving her any sense of control over her life. She rubbed her eyes, glanced at the time, 5:15 a.m., and swung her legs over the side of the bed. The floor was cold, but her two kids were still warm, tangled under mismatched blankets in the small bedroom they shared. For a brief second, Clara allowed herself to just look at them. Lily, 8, clutched her stuffed rabbit. Max, only 5, had rolled sideways so that one tiny foot stuck out from beneath the covers. Her chest tightened. They deserve so much more than this, she thought. The apartment was small, the rent was steep, and the paycheck from her customer service job barely covered bills after childcare. Every month was a balancing act: rent, utilities, food, bus fare. And every month she had to choose which bill to pay late. She padded into the kitchenette, flipped on the ancient coffee maker, and sighed as it groaned to life. The clock ticked toward 6. Soon she'd have to wake the kids, rush them through breakfast, hustle them into clothes, and drop them at the sitters before taking the bus downtown. Another day of headset calls, endless complaints, and a manager who measured her humanity in average call times. But Clara's body ached with more than fatigue. It was the kind of bone-deep weariness that comes from knowing tomorrow would look exactly the same as today, and the day after that, and the day after that. The breaking point came on a Tuesday. Her shift had already started badly. She was 5 minutes late logging in, thanks to a delayed bus. The manager, Dale, was waiting at her cubicle with his clipboard. "You need to tighten this up, Clara. We can't keep making exceptions." She bit back her response. Exceptions? She hadn't asked for any exceptions. She just needed the world to stop falling apart long enough for her to catch her breath. By mid-morning, her calls blurred together. Angry customer. Confused customer. Customer demanding refunds. Her script was memorized to the syllable. "I'm sorry for the inconvenience. Let me check that for you. I understand your frustration." At 11:42 a.m., her phone buzzed. It was the sitter. "Clara, I'm so sorry," the sitter whispered. "Max has a fever. You'll need to pick him up. I can't keep him here, not with the other kids." Clara's heart sank. She turned in her chair, already knowing what her manager would say. She'd used 3 sick days this month already, 2 for Max, 1 when Lily's school had closed unexpectedly for a power outage. Dale's face hardened as soon as she approached his desk. "Again," he said, loud enough for half the floor to hear. "My son is sick," Clara said softly. "You understand that your reliability is being questioned, right?" Something snapped in her. Reliability. As if her entire worth was a checkbox on a clipboard. As if raising 2 kids alone, keeping food on the table, dragging herself out of bed at 5 every morning just to keep this machine running, wasn't proof enough of her reliability. She opened her mouth, ready to explain, to beg for understanding, but then she stopped. For the first time, she didn't feel the instinct to defend herself. She felt something else instead. A cold clarity. She grabbed her bag, powered down her computer, and looked him straight in the eye. "You're right. I'm not reliable for this job. Because my kids come first. Always." And then she walked out. That afternoon, Clara sat on her living room floor. Max curled against her chest, flushed with fever. She stroked his hair, heart pounding with both terror and relief. She had no paycheck coming in. No safety net. No plan. But she had something she hadn't felt in a long time. A tiny defiant spark. For years she'd swallowed her pride, endured the grind, and accepted the narrative that people like her, single moms with no degree, barely scraping by, didn't get to dream. But sitting there, listening to Max's soft breathing, Clara realized she was done living by other people's measurements of worth. She would find another way. Not tomorrow, not someday, now. The order for the A&J necklace came through at 6:17 a.m. Just as Clara was pouring cereal into bowls. The notification buzzed against the countertop, a small, bright sound that somehow rang louder than the bus brakes outside or the kettle starting to whistle. Lily, bleary-eyed and clutching her rabbit, looked up. What was that? Clara smiled without meaning to. That, sweetheart, was a customer. Lily blinked. Like money. Like someone who believes in us. By Friday, Clara had made and mailed the necklace. She'd pressed each letter J and Brave with careful rhythm. She wrapped it in tissue, tucked in Lily's hand-drawn star card, and taped the box with Rose's magic tape. At the post office, Max insisted on handing the package to the clerk himself. He stretched onto tiptoes, grunting with the effort, and Clara nearly teared up watching him. It wasn't just a package. It was a promise, heading out into the world with her name on it. The weekend brought 3 more orders, 2 everyday star necklaces and 1 promise cuff stamped steady. Each sale was small, 22 here, 34 there. But the way Clara stared at the order list, you'd think she'd landed a contract to outfit the entire city. She began rearranging her life around production. Breakfast, school drop-off, laundry in the machine, then jewelry at the table while Max colored beside her. If he got restless, she set him up with dinosaurs and let him guard the gems. At night, after dishes and bedtime stories, she polished pieces under the kitchen lamp, shoulders heavy but mind electric. Money was still tight, painfully tight, but the fear felt different now. Before, it had been a constant drowning. Now it was like paddling in deep water with an island on the horizon. Exhausting, yes, but at least there was land to aim for. 2 weeks later, she hit her first wall. The kids had both caught colds, Lily coughing, Max clingy and hot. Clara's sleep shrank to ragged snatches between medicine, water, and shushing. The orders, though, didn't stop. 3 Mama Plus Me sets and a pair of star necklaces sat half-finished on her table, customers waiting. At 2:45 m.m., Clara sat staring at her tools, heart pounding with the panic of not enough. Not enough energy, not enough time, not enough her. The voice of her old manager echoed in her head. Your reliability is being questioned. She closed her eyes. For a moment, she wanted to crawl back under the covers and pretend none of it existed. But then she thought of Lily's serious voice the day she heard the notification. Like someone who believes in us. She took a deep breath, wiped her eyes and whispered to herself, okay, 1 piece at a time. She finished the first necklace before dawn. Not everything went smoothly. Her 3rd customer messaged. Asterisk, the chain broke after a week. Asterisk, Clara's stomach dropped, hands cold on the keyboard. The old Clara, the one trained to apologize endlessly at the call center, nearly typed a frantic essay of excuses. But the new Clara, the one forging a business, paused. She typed instead, I'm so sorry this happened. I'll send you a replacement today, and I'll include an extra piece for your trouble. Thank you for letting me know, it helps me improve. Asterisk, the customer replied an hour later. Wow. That's the best service I've ever had. I'll definitely order again. Clara sagged back in her chair, shaking. She'd turned a mistake into trust. Slowly, a rhythm emerged. Mornings, school runs, emails, quick photos of finished products in the sunlight on the windowsill. Afternoons, production bursts during Max's nap, quiet hammering, stamping letters into brass. Evenings, homework, story time, dinner on a budget, then packaging and labeling orders once the kids were asleep. It wasn't glamorous. It was messy and exhausting. Some nights Clara nearly cried from the sheer weight of it. But when she dropped padded envelopes at the post office, she felt taller somehow. Like each package carried a piece of her forward. One night, Lily padded into the kitchen, rabbit in tow. Mom, are you still working? Clara, squinting through magnifying glasses, looked up. Just finishing 1 more order. Do you like it? Lily asked. Clara thought about that. About the long nights, the aching hands, the worry of bills. About the spark that came when she pressed enough into brass. Yes, she said softly. I like that, it's ours. Lily nodded, satisfied, and went back to bed. By the end of the first month, Clara had made $417 in profit. Not much, not yet enough for rent. But it was real. It was hers. When she updated her notebook, she didn't just write $417. She wrote proof. The voice of her old manager echoed in her head. Your reliability is being questioned. She closed her eyes. For a moment, she wanted to crawl back under the covers and pretend none of it existed. But then she thought of Lily's serious voice the day she heard the notification. Like someone who believes in us. She took a deep breath, wiped her eyes and whispered to herself, "Okay, one tiny, undeniable piece of evidence at a time." The first big break came on an ordinary Wednesday. Clara had just finished cleaning peanut butter smudges off the table when her phone buzzed with a notification from her shop. Order 15 promise cuffs. She blinked. First she thought it was a mistake. But no, the order was real. A local nonprofit had found her store and wanted custom bracelets stamped with the word hope for an upcoming fundraiser. Clara sank into a chair, staring at the screen. 15 cuffs. More than she'd sold in a whole month. The profit from this single order would cover rent. Her heart thundered. "Kids," she called, voice shaking. "We've got work to do." For the next 2 weeks, the apartment became an unofficial workshop. A Lily cut strips of tissue paper for packaging. A Max stuck stickers on thank you cards, sometimes upside down. A Rosa dropped off extra envelopes and snacks for the factory workers. Clara hammered and stamped until her wrists ached, but she didn't care. She was filling the biggest order of her life. When she finally sealed the last padded envelope, she lined them up on the counter like soldiers. She took a photo and posted it with the caption 15 cuffs. 15 sparks of hope. Feeling grateful, tired, and very, very bold. The post got shared more than she expected. Strangers commented, "Beautiful work. Ordering mine next. Love this story." Her shop's traffic doubled overnight. But just as quickly, chaos struck. 3 days later, Clara woke to find her website down. A glitch in the payment processor had frozen her account, holding the nonprofit's payment in limbo. She spent hours on the phone with customer service, trapped in the same loop she'd once managed herself. "I'm sorry for the inconvenience. Please hold while I transfer you." Meanwhile, bills loomed. Rent was due in 6 days. Electricity in 4. The money she counted on was locked, and she had no backup. Her chest tightened as the old fear crept back. What if I can't do this? What if resilience isn't enough? That night, after the kids fell asleep, she sat at the table with her head in her hands. The hammer lay unused, the brass dull in the lamplight. She wanted to quit. She wanted to curl up and let the weight crush her. But then Lily padded out of bed, clutching her rabbit. "Mom," she whispered. "I showed my teacher our shop today. She said you're amazing. She said you're showing us how to be strong." Clara's throat tightened. Out of the mouths of 8-year-olds. She hugged Lily, inhaling the scent of crayons and shampoo. "Thanks, Bug." When Lily was back in bed, Clara reopened her notebook. At the top of a fresh page she wrote, "Okay, Plan B. Email nonprofit, explain issue, promise delivery. Call landlord. Ask for 3-day grace. Offer buy one get one half off sale on site." A message, Rosa. "See if she can cover sitter hours while I fix this mess." One by one she checked them off. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't smooth. But it was forward. 2 days later, the payment issue was resolved. The nonprofit wired the funds directly. Clara exhaled so hard she startled herself. She paid rent, cleared the electric bill, and bought real groceries, chicken, apples, even a bag of chocolate chips Lily had been eyeing. That night she baked cookies with the kids. Flour dusted the counter, Max snuck spoonfuls of dough, and Lily danced to the radio while Clara laughed. A laugh that felt new and wide. Because resilience wasn't about never stumbling. It was about finding a way to bake cookies even after the storm. The following week, orders continued to roll in. Not massive, not glamorous, but steady. Enough to keep the lights on. Enough to whisper that this dream had legs. Clara lay in bed one night, staring at the ceiling. For the first time in years, the fear didn't crush her completely. It was still there, yes, but it shared space now with something else. Possibility. By the end of the 3rd month, Clara could hardly believe the numbers in her notebook. 1,382 profit. Not fortune. Not luxury. But stability, something she hadn't tasted in years. The rent was covered before the due date. Groceries no longer meant counting every apple. She even tucked away a 50 cushion into a savings jar, labeling it future. Her kids noticed first. "Mom, you're smiling more," Lily said one morning as she buttered toast. Clara laughed softly. "Am I?" "Yeah," Lily said matter-of-factly. "Even when Max spills juice." Max mid-sip grinned with orange mustache foam. "Oops." They burst into laughter. And Clara realized her daughter was right. She was smiling more. Not because life was suddenly easy, but because it was finally hers. The business settled into rhythm. Orders came steadily. Gifts for mothers, tokens of encouragement for friends, keepsakes stamped with words like faith, courage, survive. Each package carried not just jewelry but Clara's quiet vow. You are enough. You are stronger than you know. She upgraded her photos, buying a 25 light box from a thrift store and teaching Lily how to style product shots. Lily loved it. I'm your art director, Mom. And the images grew sharper, brighter, more professional. Max appointed himself chief sticker officer, proudly slapping thank you labels onto boxes, sometimes sideways, sometimes upside down. Customers loved it. One even wrote in a review, Asterisk, the packaging had a child's touch. It made me smile. This isn't just a shop, it's a family. Rosa became Clara's unofficial hype woman. At the bakery, she bragged to customers. See this bracelet? Single mom in my building made it. You need one too. Soon Clara had neighbors stopping her in the lobby asking about custom pieces. Clara leaned into it. She printed simple flyers, offered a small discount for local pickups, and even set up a tiny table at the community center craft fair. Standing behind her display, with Lily arranging necklaces and Max charming passersby with his dinosaur facts, Clara felt something she hadn't in years. Pride. But success brought new questions. Could she keep growing? Could she handle more orders? Could she one day replace the side hustles with this full-time dream? One night, after the kids were asleep, Clara sat with her notebook. On one page, she wrote survival. On the other, future. Under survival, she listed rent, food, utilities. Under future, she listed website upgrade, wholesale materials, time for kids. She circled the last one 3 times. Time for kids. Because resilience, she realized, wasn't just about working harder. It was about building a life where her children didn't just watch her fight, but watch her rest, laugh, and live. 6 months after she'd walked out of her cubicle for the last time, Clara stood in her kitchen, packaging an order bound for California. The sun streamed through the window. Lily and Max were at the table coloring, their chatter filling the room. She paused, bracelet in hand, and breathed it in, the mess, the joy, the hum of possibility. Her life wasn't perfect. The business was still fragile. Money was still tight. But she was no longer drowning. She was building. And in that moment, Clara understood. Resilience wasn't just about bouncing back. It was about daring to build forward. That night, she tucked Lily and Max into bed. Lily clutched her rabbit, Max snored softly. Clara kissed their foreheads and whispered, "Everything I'm building, it's for you." In the quiet that followed, she finally let herself believe it. Little Bold wasn't just a business. It was proof that even in the hardest storms, hope could take root and grow.